Wow, it's already the March 2017 edition of the Bizarre Briefing. It goes by really fast. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Hi.
It does.
What's going on?
It does.
Uh-huh.
It really goes by fast. It actually goes like really fast, though.
But fast.
But fast.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hi, welcome to this thing. I'm Bryce Castillo, joined as always with Brandt Hughes,
Hey, that's me.
Max Gilliland,
Yep.
and introducing to the show for the first time, Jeff Schusler. Hey, Jeff.
All right.
We talked about Jeff just a little bit last month. Jeff is coming on to do some editing on Scam School and kind of picking up eventually picking up Brandt's share of Scam School editing.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, like what you were doing before, or
What's your
you're doing
social?
now? What's your mother's
Okay,
maiden
so-
name?
Going on, you know.
Yeah, mother's maiden name. No, I run a Let's Play channel, mostly just puppets and screaming about our dicks all the time. And I don't know, I went to school for 4 years to learn how to become a professional animator, and then used that skill to talk about video games, and decided to use it for good rather than evil by coming over and doing some advanced editing. I mean, most of the editing that I do for my show is like, it's like 4 clicks and I'm done. And, you know, you start doing Scam School episodes and it's like, wait, how many clicks? What the fuck?
Yeah.
How many hours?
We don't necessarily measure it in clicks anymore. We kind of use hours at this. But I get what you're saying, because I've done Let's Play stuff too. And Let's Play stuff is like, it's a lot of just trimming up or like cleaning stuff up. So, you know, we're happy to have you though.
Also, really generous to say that Scam School is not for evil. Really
That's the
generous.
point.
I mean, it's called Scam School.
Yeah. We literally teach people how to do crimes, but don't do crimes.
Don't do crimes. Look, we don't teach you how to do crimes. We just do crimes in front of you.
Right.
We let you know how crimes work, so that way you could prevent crimes from happening to you.
There's a waiver
That's right.
somewhere, you know, the handcuffs. And,
That's what.
Unless you want to get free beers from it, then do whatever.
that's
crimes.
acceptable.
That's not a crime.
Right.
That's a goof. Just tell the officer.
Yeah.
No, officer,
No,
that's a
no,
goof.
It's just a prank, bro.
They were all free, officer. I don't know.
But you can't see. That's the problem. Is we are now enabling more people to make prank channels. Yeah, like that's not evil. That's like real dark. Like we
It's
are like.
Machiavellian.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another like magnitude deeper of bad. Hi, Jeff.
Sup?
So you've been doing the Let's Play stuff, but you're gonna keep going with that, right?
Yeah, I think so. I am currently trying to figure out how to fit roughly 600 hours worth of week into 1 week.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know how many hours are in a week, but yeah, trying to do them both at the same time, which has been really interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Sleep is a fond memory.
There are 168 hours in a week.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good,
Oh,
Just,
excellent reporting.
just-
so everybody's on the same page.
From our man on the street in the
Yep.
time-space continuum, Brandt.
So, Brandt, is your entire life just trying to anticipate comment sections and get ahead of them with the raw data?
I mean, that is a big
kinda,
part of my
yeah,
job.
but-
It's pretty
so-
significant, actually. So, like, this will be this coming episode will be your third episode, Jeff. Like, you know, we've talked internally that you have like you've gotten a very weird spectrum of episodes. Just in terms, like the very first one was the 11-cent slide, which is up on which went up almost a month and a half ago, probably. Which was tough for a number of reasons.
Really thinking about going and fact checking that, but
What?
keep going.
Oh.
How long ago that?
Oh,
Let
okay. And you know, that was tough because it was partially cloudy, so the sun was shifting
Yeah,
a
lighting
lot.
was rough.
And then
Yeah.
there was maybe 5 or 6 minutes of footage that was missing because somebody, I won't say names, but it's not Brandt, turned off their camera accidentally for a while, and then noticed it was off. But and then you also had most recently the let me see what it's called. The
Amazing puzzles from 100 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, 3
Yeah.
riddles unearthed from 100 years ago, which was also its own sort of bag of tricks in terms of having audio at the very end. Brian's audio mic totally just fell off, and
Yeah.
you know, one of the tricks in the middle probably like they solved it like instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this one that you're coming up is this the first? No, it won't be. It's not the first one where Brian really dissects a trick with the fan, but this one is even more like discussion heavy in terms of like
The methodology and what went into crafting that trick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so all of that said, like, how have you felt going and like really getting hands on with all this footage and editing down these episodes? Like, do you feel more comfortable with it? Do you feel like you are it's becoming, is it becoming easier or more and more like Byzantine?
No, it's becoming easier. This latest one, I feel like, went a lot faster, at least for my first couple of passes. Though I was thinking that I'm really expectant that the next episode is you're just going to hand me like an audio file and only half of the audio file is there. And it's like, okay, so you need to do Brian's voice for the rest of it and then animate everything by hand. You've got 4 hours.
Yeah.
This will determine your status forever.
And no onion skinning. No onion
That's
skinning
right.
allowed.
Yeah. Yeah, just old school Warner Brothers with a cigarette and like 4 pages flipping them up and down. Yeah. No, I feel like it's getting easier. It is a skill set that it's really daunting at first when you first are handed this thing and you're expected to essentially take something. It makes me have a lot more respect for like movie editors, and especially for you two. Which way am I pointing? This way?
It was a great
I
visual
don't know.
bit.
Yeah, I'm reversed, so my brain can't handle that because you guys are like, oh yeah, well we just like look at it and blink twice and it's like, because y'all are you've been doing it for so long that you're super good at just like turning that stuff around. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming up on year 2. Brandt, you're in year 4?
End of 2013. What's this year?
It's 2017. So about 4 years?
Very nice.
3.5.
3.5. Yeah. Like especially Scam School, which is like, I think we've talked about it before, is like got a really set voice, and like there's a good idea. It's not necessarily a formula, but like you got a good idea of what goes into a Scam School after so many episodes under your belt.
Yeah, and especially when you go like, oh, this is like a coin episode, or this is a card episode, and all of those episodes kind of have their own peculiarities.
Just in terms of what you show and how you structure everything and pace it all.
And there's also a lot of nuance in the edits that you kind of have to learn the hard way. So that's something to look forward to, Jeff. But there's a lot of stuff like you have to be really cognizant of how the trick works when you're cutting it down, because there are certain things that you need to show and certain things that
You don't want to show.
you need to not show. You need to basically, like, you don't want to be accused of camera trickery, so you don't want to necessarily cut out a move, a magic move. So there are people who are super into magic who like watching the performance and trying to dissect it before they get to the explanation.
And then they realize after the fact, oh, you just cut out the whole bit.
Yeah, and so if there was like a really important cut or shuffle or something, and you just cut that out, then they go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how did this happen? Because you totally just skipped out on something that was really important.
But equally, those sorts of moves you can't give too much spotlight, because then it undersells the actual sleight or whatever the move is.
Yes. So you have to be really good about showing things as a participant would see it. So you have to be like aware of angles, and you have to be able to. So I do a lot of things where I cut by waveform. So if there's like a big gap of nobody talking, I'm just going to cut all that out without even thinking about it. But I remember there was an episode with Diamond Jim Tyler last year. It was the ring. There was something with a ring and a string and.
Oh,
and
right.
some-
Yes.
Yeah. And so there was a bit there where Jim was like kind of filling air, and he was doing like some moves with cards, and I just cut that out because it felt like filler from a conversational perspective.
Yeah.
But I ended up cutting something from both the performance and the explanation because
okay.
it was covered under like a mountain of
Yeah.
Right.
and so
Misdirection, yeah.
and it was something that wasn't inherently explained, but it was a thing that happened.
Yeah.
And so there was a certain subsect of people who were like, "Hey, there's clearly something that happened here," and I like, why did you cut it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was just like, oh well, it was just like whatever. And then so I ended up having to like take that specific clip and like link
That's what you
people to
linked
it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so there's a lot of like nuance like that goes into episodes.
Though I do think lately we've had a significantly less amount of comments of like tricky editing. Like I don't know if it's a factor of the audience being more understanding that this is a show that gets edited, or if we just have a better eye for that stuff now.
Yeah.
But I
don't
feel
know.
like I feel like I used to see a lot of like it's all camera stuff, and now I see basically none of those comments. You know, I mean,
Yeah, take a quick look back at the snap a wrench in half episode, and there's everybody who's like, he's just bending with his legs. She said it's fake. And just like a bunch of people feeling like they were getting one overed, and like trying to deconstruct and be like, it's clearly fake because of this. But yeah, I would say I don't notice that anymore, but also I kind of don't look at Scam School comments anymore. So
I feel like I do feel like I've kept an eye out and haven't seen as much of that. So
That's good.
I think that's kind of an interesting thing. So don't bring them back. Don't bring those comments back. No.
no pressure.
So yeah, we you're doing this very conversation heavy episode. Now, like we haven't seen it yet, but like it's another sort of out of the box thing for even if we were doing it, it's not a very typical sort of episode. Do you feel like how I guess you haven't really had like a very like middle of the road episode yet, but like do you feel like it was more or less complicated than a more traditional sort of episode?
I actually thought the one that I'm working on right now wasn't super complicated because we had super good coverage on seeing the trick, and it was the trick itself. Once it's explained, is actually pretty easy to follow. The main thing is that I feel like when I started out, that I just wasn't taking enough things out, and I think that a lot of my editing experience, both when I was an animator way back in the old days and then even on doing Rage Select stuff, is trying to leave as much in as possible. And so it's been really interesting when I send these and get the notes back from y'all about how much you guys are just like, well, get rid of that. It doesn't need to be in there. Like that doesn't need to be in there. That doesn't need to be in there. Like that doesn't, he already said that over there. So I've been worried about being too cut heavy, but I think in this particular episode, I really tried to kind of squeeze it up and make sure that there wasn't anything extraneous. And it actually went a lot faster because this one didn't have, the 11-cent slide and the puzzles both had a lot of like overlay on them. And this one was just a fairly simple card trick, even though the format was kind of reversed with having Brian talking to somebody else doing the trick and Brian watching. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Very cool.
It's definitely
It's possible I might just give it to you guys and you're just like, that's terrible. Throw the fire and
Scrap
start
it.
over again.
it's definitely something that I struggled with when I started as well. Just I was very precious with a lot of material and moments.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why we started extended outtakes was because it was like there's all of this
a lot of
Too much to.
fun footage,
Yeah.
but doesn't actually help the episode at all. So it was nice to kind of have a place to push that, even though we don't really do that with Scam School anymore.
Yeah. I feel like we've also had a lot less of those moments.
Sure, Scam School's gotten kind
of lean.
trimmed down.
Yeah. But we're also now fitting outtakes to fit in the 20-second end card. versus just kind of open-ended annotation based.
Yeah, so
Right.
even those are kind of trimmed down for efficiency.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely an acquired skill, just to kind of get a really good sense of what's necessary and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit. I mean, just a couple more. I feel like, and I'll be to a place where I'll feel a lot more confident about just sitting down with a 12 hours or so, just and start to finish, and be able to put something that's mostly complete, like with a few random notes. But
Yeah, I mean, soon enough you will get to a point where like for me, because I kind of jumped in headfirst with the 2-week schedule, only because you were on an every week schedule, and that was really crazy.
Yeah.
But it only I feel like it only took me like a month or so, maybe a couple, to like not get many notes to start getting basically no notes. And then it might have been 4 to 6 months, maybe that timeline's all weird, of like fully feeling pretty good in terms of having a lot of autonomy in terms of I was in the middle. I remember this moment specifically, but I don't remember when it was. I was in the middle of recording Roberto's My So-Called 8-Bit Life, and it was on a Scam School episode night, and I had gotten the episode done early, so I was over at his place doing the show because his show was at 8 o'clock too, and getting a call from Brian in the middle of it, and I was like, dude, good job on the episode. Like, I didn't even look at it, and it went up, and it was great, and yada yada yada. And so like there will eventually just like flip over to that point where like you've got it, and instead of like needing notes and checks on stuff every time, it will be like you coming to one of us to be like, hey, like, what do you think about this moment, or I don't feel super secure about this thing, can you take a look at it? Right? Like, I don't know that you, Brandt, necessarily had the exact same like transition in, because I don't exactly know like your transition into editing Scam School necessarily.
It was 1 week the old production crew was doing an episode, and the next week I was doing an episode. So I went, let's see how this goes. I did get notes from Brian for a handful of weeks for sure.
Right.
And then I just stopped sending him stuff.
And I don't know. I at least when I'm like writing notes, like I want to be very as like concrete as possible, because I just remember getting notes from Brian constantly that were just like, I feel like you could lose 30 seconds here. It could just be 45 seconds shorter.
Yeah. So when Ryan says it could be 45 seconds shorter, that means you can cut out about 15 to 20 seconds.
Right.
And it's infuriating. And usually his time code is like 10 seconds
might be a
off or
little
so.
off. Yeah.
And then so you go, okay, I think he's talking about this section here.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I want to be very detailed so that ambiguity doesn't have to be waded through, you know.
I mean, I'm the kind of guy who likes to like go, okay, I'm going to download this file. I'm going to give you like which frame that you need to cut out from here to here. But yeah, like I also like to, when I'm giving notes, I like to give like kind of the reasoning behind it, because on some level that's the sort of thing you can intuit over time. But
that isn't,
it's
you know it.
It's way clearer if I go, this is why this doesn't work.
Yeah, that's been super, super helpful, because both of y'all do that with your notes. Is that every time I get one of those notes, I try to think, okay, well then next time I'm going to cut this because I know why it needs to be cut, instead of just
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's almost like the editing process is easy when you have an editor to help you figure out what you want to edit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Okay, if I can transition a little bit.
Okay.
So right now we are doing sort of a 3-week cycle with Jeff doing an episode, and then the two of us doing episodes, and in that 3-week loop. Okay.
Right.
Is it just me? I would like losing my mind last week not having a Scam School.
It's mostly you. I mean, I've got Modern Rogue to fill up my week, and
That's true.
that takes plenty of time. And also, sometimes Go game stuff. Like this week, I had a Go game.
Oh,
Right.
And also, it's the kind of thing where it's like it's kind of like when you first took over. Like it just gave a little bit of breathing room, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
And it's just like I've been going at it for so long.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I just get so tired. I'm just like exhausted, and then I go, okay, here's a week where I can just reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to say, today I'm just gonna not get dressed and I'm gonna watch Rocket League for like 8 hours.
Okay.
And then I'm just gonna sit here and not do anything and keep the blinds closed, and then
all right,
I'll get
all
some
right.
sleep.
Yeah.
And then that's my day. So
It's a good day.
That sounds like a day off.
Yeah.
yeah.
To be honest, though, like a weekend. Yeah.
And I don't get weekends, so it's really nice to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mostly like part of it is that like just not even having that soft deadline of a Scam School episode on a week, but also and this will go into a little bit of something else that we are talking about is I think we're not going to do giveaway videos anymore.
Okay.
I'm not announcing this. I'm not deciding this.
You're just feeling it out. You're just
Maybe.
talking out
But
loud.
if
Thinking
I
out
was
loud.
if I had to read the cards, if I had to read the stars, I don't know that we do giveaway videos anymore. Because we've moved all the giveaway
It's been
stuff.
a while, right?
We've moved all the giveaway stuff to the comment section, which is doing well. Like the Reddit, like those threads about the codes get a lot of discussion, and it is the most like tuned in, I feel like, to the people who do the code things, just in terms of like
Yeah.
whether something was too easy or like getting feedback and ideas for different ciphers and stuff. But also, you know, we're kind of in a slower period right now with the store where a weekly video about a product or something like literally can't materialize, just because there haven't been a lot of new releases or sales or anything yet. And so even if we do have one, and I only bring this up like super openly because I mentioned it to Brian and he sounded like he had the tone that said that does make sense to me. You know, you not like, yes, I agree, but like that makes sense, and I haven't figured out if I disagree yet.
right.
Yeah.
But like in any case, like I almost would love to like see the code stuff continue to be a Reddit and comment based thing, and then when we have a new product, just shoot a product video, like the old ones for like the Flask or whatever, or like we did with Outlaws. You know, the
Right.
teaser videos and stuff. Just because those the other thing that I find advantageous over a distinct product video versus the giveaway pitch basically is there's something very infomercial-y about the giveaway videos and the what was formerly behind the scam was that the function of that video was to sell you this product very openly. And the codes came out of as a function of trying to soften that hard sell every week, you know?
And also occasionally it was kind of wrapped and framed as a vlog kind of thing. Of
Right.
Like, this
And-
sort of happened this week, I guess, but also let's talk about a product.
Right. And by the way, like when it was the vlog sort of stuff, those did not as good. Those really just didn't even do super great for an already sort of lower viewed thing. So it's putting a lot of stuff together as a way of like efficiency, having a very efficient video component to the store, right? Because if there's a new product every couple weeks or so, or a sale or whatever, right? Like it makes sense to like figure out a formula and a structure where you can do that very regularly, you know. But for me, the person who is not announcing this, just saying that I think this is a really good way to do this, at least for now, would be like we can make more bespoke videos for products that come out, or sometimes we source stuff and they have material, or we can put a video together that says that there's a sale and show the things and just have it be that. Because I think when we have like the pyro video, the pyro B-roll of them going out and doing the slow motion stuff, that's a cool video about a product that is like inherently kind of neat to see. Oh, that's a little flamethrower rocket gun on your wrist. It looks really cool, and this was shot really well. I enjoy seeing that, and I think just losing the entire framing of like, I'm sitting down and explaining to you what this package that you're going to see is, and you can buy it now. Hey, I need to also come back and tell you can buy it now for some reason. Like.
But wait, you want it for free?
What?
No, I think that's a really good idea, actually, because one of my favorites that you guys did was the arson watch. And I think part of
the April Fool's, but that was just an April Fool's. No, but that was the launch of the Arsenal watch too.
Well, that's the thing, is it had like a comedic appeal. It was funny, it was hilarious, it was clever, it was witty, but it also was like, hey, look at this new thing that we got, kind of thing. So I think combining the two and having a little bit of like an attraction and a fun and playfulness, I like that. Well, that's a good idea.
And late last year, we were getting into like Facebook ads and Instagram ads and things. And for like, it seemed like those worked on a very low investment on a very small scale. But
I kept getting delivered those ads.
Really?
And I was like, I'm good. I already know about this stuff, but thanks. Money well spent.
But that's how powerful it is. It knows that this is the kind of thing that you're
that's
around.
Scary.
Yeah.
It just doesn't know you could steal it for free at some point.
Yeah.
I say steal, you know what I mean. But like for something like that, which we kind of did something with Outlaws, that Outlaws video. We made one for a cut of it for Facebook and Instagram, I think. And the giveaway videos, as they were just too long and took too long to get into it, and were very direct. They were very they were a spoken pitch, and we work in a very visual medium for a lot of this stuff. And so, so much of what we do is about like making stories, and like with the email stuff of like trying to have a voice and a through line. Like, I think that, I don't know. I just, it's weird because I do like, I was doing the giveaway stuff and product stuff, last year. But I'm also like, I always want to be at least at arm's length from full-on advertising, full-on infomercials. I want there to be a blend of content and product integration, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think. The code stuff is really doing well on Reddit. We just did like 6 weeks of just code stuff on YouTube and Reddit, and as many people are coming up for that, and we had about 300 entries last week. Like
like more than that. People are loving it.
Yeah,
it's great.
it's really nice, and that's the sort of thing where I think that on its own is a powerful reward, and we no longer need to. We don't really need to attach it to a video that's unnecessary.
Yeah. Right.
If I can transition to one more similar sort of thing.
Okay.
Because we're still doing codes every week, and this was brought up in. I think this was over Twitter, or I think this was on Twitter. Now we're doing the codes in the comments on YouTube, because there's no weekly video to embed stuff into on a visual level. And I actually kind of want to get your temperature, because I have my own feelings on this, and maybe I've mentioned them to y'all, but like specifically you, Brandt, of like embedding parts of these codes into those videos. If you look at like the old ones, we would have like flashes of codes or stuff would pop up on screen or be in or part of the episode, right? Like gut check.
Initial impression is I'm not like super pumped about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also the element of like Modern Rogue is generally speaking a pretty clean product. You know, like I've got like in my mind I've gone back and forth on what would it look like if we did like a 5-second CTA at the end of it, because people sometimes
That's a common thing.
sometimes
Sure.
sometimes CTAs are effective, and if it's quick and not garbage, then maybe it's worth doing. Like I've started putting CTAs at the end of extended outtakes.
Yeah. Which is just a black screen because they end.
It's a mostly black screen. It's like the sort of animated
grain.
texture
Yeah.
sort of thing in the background, but yeah, and then some wind noise. But like I haven't, you know, that's just been like weird nebulous thought for me. And you know, there's a lot of stuff that we don't put in episodes, and so I kind of like that it's like a really finished, complete, cohesive product in and of itself.
Yeah.
And you know, for some episodes, stuff like that would make sense, like the subliminal messaging episode where you're already sneaking stuff in there. But and you know, I've done some little minor sneaky messages in episodes before.
Oh, yeah?
So it's not like totally out of the question. But on some level, it's like, okay, so you need to come up with the code, and then you need to tell me what to put in, and then
Right,
we
because you're
need to
still
coordinate
putting the episodes together.
like
you know.
Friday morning.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is
Right.
a big like for me even, and this kind of echoes some of your reasoning, but like Modern Rogue as it is now is a very pure show. Like
Right.
it's not like Game School, which has multiple avenues that come out, and it's not like the giveaway videos, which were almost disposable. They were very timely and did not like you wouldn't go back and watch an old one for pretty much any reason, you
Right.
know. And with Modern Rogue, it's like if Netflix put in some fucking Twitter game into an episode of Iron Fist. Like you wouldn't go check out at Iron Fist _ X29 to play this game for a week.
Or like a little slide out that's like, here's the top trending tweets, the hashtag Iron Fist.
Right. And they probably wouldn't want to do that anyway for Iron Fist, but
Yeah. And also that would be a little bit more of an egregious example, but certainly in that vein.
right. I think what goes out on the Modern Rogue channel is like, this is the Modern Rogue in its most like sharpest, well-defined standalone series, you know? Like I think in a logistical sense, it means that what goes up there is like the episode. There's not a clean version that needs to be made after the fact that doesn't have all of these codes in it or whatever. Like it's this, and I also just don't know that the return on investment for that sort of stuff is there. Like we have a good number of people who play in the codes, but that is a fraction of the people who view the YouTube episodes and all of that stuff. And it's like, how much are we defiling is not the right word for it, but I'm going to say it. Like, how much are you defiling what is it is Modern Rogue being a Modern Rogue video for whatever the purposes of a giveaway is, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I bring it up to like get a sense of you because we've talked about it a little bit. And I think between it just being a very logistically weird thing in terms of getting it done super early and making sure like coordinating with you, as some of that stuff that I was doing was like also kind of involved and particular, and like we don't need to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody leave a comment like, "Oh, you should put them in the video on
that
a
was
YouTube
it.
video." Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Brian was like, "I'll bring it up with Brandt," and I was like, "Will you? Will you?"
Well, this is me
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
I also would have said no to Brian if he asked me. But I just the codes are fun, and people do love mysteries and stuff, but it has to be appropriate for what the content is, I feel like. And putting in the Modern Rogue, which is like the new baby, it feels more of a cheap ploy than like an actual part of this thing, right? Like the My Brother and Me show, where they do like, this episode we've got Illuminati messages, and then at the end of the episode you go and find stuff and there's actually like an actual thing, but that's a function of what that episode was, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't see us being in a point where, outside of very specific cases, where that will come up, you know? And Zaki R's in the chat says, I vote that the codes should be left in the comments. I love the editing of the Modern Rogue episodes the way that they are now. Yeah.
Which
Oh.
I'm just
So
going to say,
you...
well, first of all, sticking on subliminal stuff.
Okay.
There's a Frog Fractions 2
Game on Steam.
hidden Easter egg in a Modern Rogue episode that nobody's ever found.
Really?
Yes.
Like, how much...
It's not recent either.
It's not.
Ooh,
No,
that's
it was
fine.
well before the game came out.
Well, but okay. Wait, were you one? Hold on. Are you somehow involved to that big like crop circles indie game thing? Don't be coy. Oh my god. No. I can't play party to this. This is crazy.
I'm just saying, keep an eye out on one of those episodes.
Sure.
Out
Well
there.
done.
But a lot of people did find Banana Man, which is in an early episode of Modern Rogue, a character from Adventure Time.
Oh right.
And it's just he just like pops up in the bottom corner of, I want to say, the gas mask episode as they're building it, because I thought it was really funny when they cut up the 2-liter bottle. It looked exactly like Banana Man, exact same form factor. So I had him slide up in the corner, and he was kind of transparent. And Brian and Jason didn't know about it for like 6 months, 8 months, and then finally somebody found him, and then they're like, "What the fuck is this? What is going on?" And so that made me very happy.
Yeah. Native marketing?
No.
But other than that, there aren't many subliminal messages
Easter eggs,
There are just
or Easter
some.
eggs. There are just a few here and there.
Wow. Now I want to find this Frog Fractions 2 one.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So in terms of editing, though, you just did a very interesting and Herculean effort with the most recent Modern Rogue.
Right.
The 14 hours leading up to and including the launch of the episode, right? You were live streaming that entire process.
Yep.
How was that?
It was okay. It was really good for like the first 10 hours.
Okay.
My Lord.
And then once it started hitting 5, 6 a.m., it started to really drag on. But yeah, it was pretty good. I streamed it out live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gatowag, GATOWAG. Most of it came out pretty good, except apparently when I multicam switch 5 cameras,
It gives you the 9 up.
yeah, it definitely locked up the video feed a bit, which
Okay. Too many data streams.
I guess OBS and Premiere were just competing for resources.
Yeah.
Which was really frustrating because I didn't see any dropped frames in OBS, and there were clearly many dropped frames.
That's weird.
But I might have also just not been paying attention because I had a lot to do.
Yeah. Well, because I know I was watching some of your old edit sessions for Scam School back in the day, and that was a very similar thing of like, your computer's got like Premiere and its own video encoder running at the same time, and those
Right.
things just don't always line up very well.
Yeah.
Right.
But the rest of it was easy peasy. Came out pretty good. Yeah, it was a whole process. And this episode was pretty typical of the Modern Rogue edit experience.
Yeah.
There were more cameras than there usually are. There are usually just 3, maybe 4. But usually
We did
they're-
5.
Yeah, we did 5, but the A7S was only used
For a little bit.
certain parts of it. Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be the 10th time that I've asked you this question on this podcast. Was it a better experience editing with the live stream? Like, especially being so close to the deadline. Like,
It I would say the hardest part about live streaming it is chopping up the audio, because I know how monotonous and tedious that is for me to do, much less for other people to watch.
Yeah.
And that's usually the most time intensive portion of the entire edit. But it was actually really nice in the back end when things started getting really rough, and I could tell that probably not going to hit deadline. Probably not going to hit it. It was really nice to be live streaming that and having people to commiserate with, especially once it started getting into the early morning hours when people actually started waking up and tuning in a little bit.
yeah.
Wow.
And so I've never streamed out any of the publish before. I've done a good handful of these, and they've all been edit stuff. And then once I get to the render, I've pretty much cut it off there.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can actually see you here in YouTube doing the upload.
Yeah, and a lot of that's because, like, I don't know if I would get in trouble for showing like back end scam school analytics stuff. Like, probably not, but also, is it really worth showing? Like, I don't know. But Modern Rogue, I'm just like, whatever. Like, I could do what I want over here.
I mean, here's the thing about that, right? Like, if we ever hooked up Brian's laptop for the podcasts, he would be showing it off every time.
True.
He talks
True.
about, oh my God, guys, the algorithm is smiling on us this week. Right now, today, we've had 70,000 new followers.
It really does
100,000
sound kind of like a fanatical religious thing. Like,
Yeah.
the algorithm is smiling upon us. The algorithm.
The algorithm. That goddamn algorithm.
Okay, and Zach, he says the dropped frames would be for stuff not sent to stream. So
Oh, I see.
if OBS
That's
had
nice.
problems in, like, doing it on its end, then it
That makes
probably
sense.
wouldn't show up. But yeah, so you could see the great pains that went into coming up with the description.
That's right.
Because
Because I remember when we were talking in Slack about it, we were sharing titles of like what an episode title could be, but then you post something like, "Well, Sunbun thinks this is a really good episode title."
Yeah.
and like, what is Sunbun? Oh, he's still live.
yeah.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that was fun. We got a lot of like back and forth from my chat to Bryce and Brian and everybody. But yeah, and that's fun too, because the descriptions on Modern Rogue are different than any of our other shows, because I like to come up with like a little fictional narrative, like a 1 or 2 sentence thing to kind of frame the episode. And lately I've been having a bit of a through line with Jason being really paranoid, and it's a lot of fun to dig into that stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, and also the this edit session showed the kind of early stages of workflow with a color chart,
That's right.
which we recently got for production purposes. So color chart, for people who don't know, it's just like a little thing that you hold up, and it's got like 4, 6, something like 20 little color swatches.
4x6, 24 color swatches plus red.
Damn, that
red,
is
gray,
4x6. I totally called that. That's great. Yeah, and so it's got all of these colors printed out on it, and theoretically, what you do is, every camera has a different sensor which interprets color differently.
Yeah. Same for lenses.
Yeah, lenses have different characteristics with how they treat and handle light.
Yeah.
And every light bulb, has different hues and tints and colors light differently, and there are a billion different variables, and it's very complicated, and I don't understand any of it. And theoretically, what a color chart's supposed to do is you take all of your cameras and you have them exactly how they're going to be when you shoot your footage. You put the color chart in the scene where you're focusing on where you're most concerned about color representation, and then you get a quick sample of it. You take it into here and you say, hey, here's the color chart, and it goes, okay, well, we know that this little
This swatch
square
is supposed to be this color.
yeah, we know that this square is supposed to be exactly this color, so we will warp your image in such a way that we've changed whatever color you captured to the color that it's supposed to be. And you're supposed to get way better skin tones and way better, like more accurate colors in most categories.
And more consistent color between cameras.
Yeah, and so if you have different cameras that kind of treat light differently, and we have 3 camera shoots, and 2 of them are the same cameras, but they're all using different lenses. And the GH4 footage always looks way different than the GH2 footage. So it's nice to be able to say, hey, here's a consistent thing, a consistent reference point, and then you can kind of color match them all that way.
So do you feel like you've gotten good results from these cards so far?
So I felt like I had in the past episode, the surveillance episode, which was the first episode that I got to use the color chart stuff on. This one, I started seeing where a color chart might not work.
Oh, really?
But it should be worth noting that we've shot some episodes since these where we took the cameras right up to the color chart to get like a nice big sample of it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that'll kind of fix some of the inconsistencies that I've seen, because here specifically we had a top-down shot that was supposed to be kind of a detail of everything happening on the table, and I didn't get like a really good clean sample of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of tried to go for it, and the colors were a bit off, and then I tried a different sample, and the colors were super different.
Interesting.
And I think I ended up getting it in a pretty decent place, but I can see where it's not as consistent as you might think, especially if some of those swatches kind of have a little bit of glare on them, or if they're a little bit more in shadow than they're supposed to be, or whatever. So it could be kind of finicky. I'm sure I've seen a little bit of methods about manually adjusting your color images to basically
to match cards.
Yeah, to basically do what Resolve does, DaVinci Resolve does with their automatic color matching stuff. But I've used DaVinci Resolve a handful of times at this point, and it's great, but I'm just not advanced enough in color grading to be able to understand how to do all of that manually quite yet.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad. It sounds like it is at least easing some of the burden in terms of color correction.
Yeah, and it definitely gives a bit of a different look than we typically have. But I'm really excited to use the color chart in here, because lighting in the studio is always a hell of a thing to do.
It's very specific.
mess, yeah.
It is made for like this usage right here of like just doing a podcast with these specific cameras. In like it's definitely not always an easy task in the studio. I wanted to ask. Okay. I don't know how much this affects the color grading when it comes to your initial calibrations, I guess. We just shot a bunch of episodes. I was just about to say what they were, but I will not. We just shot a bunch of episodes at a place for Modern Rogue.
Right.
And I remember, because I was kind of going back and forth between our instructor and Jason, and they were sort of lit differently. And so, when I was on the instructor, I would be at a certain shutter speed and then stop it, and then click it up a little bit for Jason, because Jason was a little more exposed. Like, does that sort of mid-video adjustment affect the color very much? I mean, I know it doesn't do like tracking throughout the whole video, because of course it doesn't.
Right.
But like, is that screwing up the calibration, do you think?
So I wouldn't be surprised if it altered the color a little bit here and there, because you definitely notice, just so many variables change the way that color is captured, and so I'm sure if you had a shot that was really low ISO but really open aperture, it would probably capture color slightly differently than if it was really high ISO and really stop down shutter, because you're introducing a bunch of digital noise and a bunch of this and that, and so there's probably some variability in that, but I don't think it would be
it wasn't a drastic change.
The thing that would affect is when I go in and try to handle like the curves in luminance, so just like how much contrast I'm putting into the image and how much I'm brightening the image or darkening the image for certain things. That might be a little tricky, because it's the kind of thing where if you have an episode like Jeff's first episode where the lighting changed, sometimes you have to go in there and you have to go, okay, well, for the first 5 minutes I'm going to have these adjustments, and then the rest of the episode I'm going to have these adjustments, and then I'm going to do a ramp grade so that way it fades from one adjustment to the other adjustment, so that way you don't notice it, but then it kind of keeps a certain continuity. It gets tricky. But yeah, if it's not like a bunch of big swings, and especially if it happens when you know that I'm not going to be cutting over to that camera, then it's pretty easy to do, because you're probably keeping
you can just do it
some
by the
sort
clip
of,
or something.
and you're also probably keeping some kind of consistency with how well lit a person is, and so theoretically the same kind of adjustments to the image would carry over.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know. That. So we've got one of your patented Brandt rants here on the dock.
Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to touch on this briefly. I think I touched on it a little bit during the edit session, but I mean, that's in that 14 hours somewhere. Right. So who
By the
knows?
way, if you want to go see that, youtube.com/scamstuff.
Yeah, it's split up into 3 parts because you can't upload videos longer than 10 hours to YouTube.
Whoops.
I definitely tried though. And also
that must have sucked, because YouTube will take an upload.
Oh yeah.
It'll wait until it's done.
And it'll be like, hold on, we're processing this.
Do that.
Let me process this for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then you go, no, sorry, dog.
This is
a little too long.
Yeah. Or like, this is a duplicate video, I've decided. Some weird stuff. But so anyway, you said this during the edit process.
Yeah, and I also mentioned it in the comment section of some video. I don't remember, but so I think a lot about everything. But I think a lot about like these edit sessions, because at no point do I ever want to say this is going to be a regular thing, because 1, it's a lot of work for me. 2, it feels a little self-aggrandizing a little bit, even though I know a lot of people kind of like watching the process sometimes. It's like I don't really want to put up 15 hours of myself on this channel every week.
Sure.
That just sounds miserable for everybody.
Yeah.
And so like I put a lot of thought into, okay, is this a good time to put this out there, and is there an inherent value in putting this information out there? So I understand that it's really something like an edit session is really valuable to watch if you're an editor, because you pick up on a lot of techniques that you might not otherwise see. The edit process is something that's not widely shown, not necessarily because I think people are concerned about trade secrets or anything, but mostly because big projects, people can't show footage until the thing's out, and for everyone else, they just assume that nobody's interested because it's boring or something.
Yeah, and it is a long process. It is a long, sort of meticulous process that is not necessarily easy viewing, and it's not necessarily entertaining viewing.
Right. And I also feel like it's valuable for people who are inherently creative, because I find that a lot of creative people derive a lot of satisfaction from watching creatives in other fields because you can deeply relate to that act of creative expression, but it's surrounded and immersed in a depth of knowledge that you don't have. So you can actually learn a tremendous amount, and you can still relate to things without fully understanding exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
So for those people, I think it's valuable as well. But the reason I kind of felt like it was important to put stuff like this out, at least have some of it out there, was because it really helps inform the viewers. And I noticed this a lot more with Modern Rogue than Scam School, but there is a certain amount of it with Scam School. And I find that some people, when they get really invested in a thing, they want to see how it's made. They want to know the people who are behind it. They want to understand what's happening, how it happens. I mean, I've got a Giant Bomb hat on, and I follow all those guys on Twitter for years, and I listen to all of their conversations for years, and I want to be immersed in that culture and the creation of that entity as a collective.
Especially because when it's something small, like even Giant Bomb is relatively small for the things that they do, but when it's small, the act of making it is inherent to what it is, right? I think it would not be a stretch to say a Modern Rogue episode in part is influenced by shooting that episode. It's not hey, we're out here doing a thing. It's hey, we're out here shooting this video that you're watching. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of being on stage, specifically in Modern Rogue. And the act of making it is one step, away from that.
Yeah,
that's just my take.
Yeah, and so when people care and invest themselves, that's when they want to dig deeper into something like this. I've had people ask me, "Hey, can you just put up the unedited footage for a Modern Rogue episode?" And I go, that sounds miserable, but I might do it once.
I feel like once, yeah, because then you get into weird stuff with giving someone all of the pieces of whatever this thing is.
Right,
but something right there, I can see an instance where that happens.
Yeah, just one time on YouTube, here's a quad cam thing of all of our multicam unedited audio. I'm just gonna upload an hour of footage, and you can see what the constituent pieces of an episode would be. So you're just kind of a fly on the wall for that situation.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to me that anybody would even find something like that remotely interesting to them. And we've talked quite a bit about it before on this show, where I think there's so much garbage in YouTube comments specifically.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. It's that's the thing. If somebody knows one thing about YouTube comments, it's that they're horrible.
They're very awful.
It's that nobody likes them. And I think a lot of that's because of this disconnect that people have with the creators of the videos. They see them as a person up on a stage instead of down on the floor with them. They see them as something where, I could just say whatever because that person's never going to see what I have to say. So I'm yelling at a wall.
Right.
And if I yell loud enough, maybe somebody on the other side of the wall will hear me.
Right. Which is exactly why no one will ever hear you because of comments like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I
At
think
least for a lot of large channels.
Yeah, and I think we do a really good job because we have a really conscious production crew where yourself and me and Jason and Brian, we're all really active in the comments. I go out of my way anytime somebody has a respectful, informed comment where they want to know something. I will go to lengths to help you out and help spread that information.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of breaks down a certain barrier of feeling like an other and feeling like we're on some elevated platform when really it's dog, you got a YouTube channel. You can make videos too. Like, that's just what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're just making videos and putting it up and you're watching it.
Yeah.
And so I think...
What also kind of humanizes us, like you talked about, like the idea of being on a stage, like being very open of like, no,
Normal people.
we edit. This was the thing that we edited. Like the connection there, it tries to break down that barrier, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, I watched something from let's say Vox or whatever.
Sure.
And I go, oh, like this is a really well produced piece. They went through a lot of trouble with this. I don't know the people who made it. I don't know like anything about the behind the scenes stuff. But from a production perspective, I can kind of empathize and relate to certain elements. Right. I can kind of glean more information than your average viewer. But I understand from a typical viewer perspective. They look at things from a product perspective and not a production perspective. So they see a video, whereas I see a process that led to a video, right?
Yeah.
And I think by putting out stuff like edit sessions, that gives people a lot of clarity into the process that happens to go into a video to help them understand that this doesn't just like happen. Like
Right.
we don't just find a video that was already made on a thumb drive and then we just go, upload that to YouTube. There's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of coordinating, a lot of nonsense, a lot of figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people don't really broadcast that for a multitude of reasons.
Right.
And I think it helps the viewers and commenters keep a sense of humanity in that they're much more able to empathize if they have, you know, more knowledge at their disposal. If they don't disconnect themselves entirely from the process that goes into stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all well said. Just in terms, like, we do have a really good comment section on the Modern Rogues. I mean, you always get stray hairs, but like if you compare it to something like a BuzzFeed, where it's a lot of, but it's a lot of bodies, and so they feel like that whatever they say will go under the radar anyway. Or they very like misguidedly think someone is going to respond to their joke about a thing that you said in the middle of this let's play video. Like it's partially just humanizing, and it creates a relationship of personalities and not a relationship of like product, you know. Like I've seen like videos from BuzzFeed, and some of them, if they're a series, I remember the hosts, right, because they're always on this video, but then sometimes it's, oh, you're just the person who's telling me this video, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
There's it, like that element of personality is something that is certainly not unique to us, but is a thing that plenty of other channels intentionally don't have a focus on. You know, Vox doesn't do it because Vox is very like it's not a newspaper, it's a blog, it's a news outlet, right? And so in terms of like expanding beyond your byline, it's not about you, dude, you're writing the article, it's about your article. And the same, and a very similar thing goes on with their infographics and their videos and stuff. You know, it's about, in those use cases, it's about the content and not who's telling it to you.
Yeah, because I mean, if you flip on a TV and watch a news broadcast, at no point is anybody going to think about the intern who had to go and source graphics for a certain segment.
Yeah.
Unless you happen to have worked as an intern before who had to do that. And I think to that point, you know, it supports the content that's being delivered, because, you know, they're trying to deliver hopefully facts and information about an event or something.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to think about the intern who had to do something.
Yeah.
And they also don't. I mean, I guess they do more these days, but they're not really concerned about your comments. They're not really concerned about building a community,
Right.
because they're giving you all of this information. That's all that matters.
And a lot of the outreach on that is not about necessarily creating a conversation. It is about engagements and like sussing out how everybody feels about things. But go to any local news website. You don't want to see those comments, man. No. People will write some shit even if it's got their Facebook name attached to it.
Right.
Like those conversations are very, very rarely constructive in any case.
Yeah. And who's to say that maybe if it came from a source where you knew all of the people involved and you knew the process that went into the journalistic endeavors,
right,
you might approach it with a little bit more humility, a little bit more humanity.
Right.
Maybe.
Right. But maybe. But yeah, in journalism, like very rarely do you see any sort of crediting for anything, especially video-based journalism. Like Vox does because they have large graphics teams and multiple reporters and stuff. But like the only it is like national level news where you see produced by or edited by sometimes a byline on the start of a long package.
Right.
But. A lot of those shows don't even have credits. Hey, watch the end of your local news TV station. You're not going to see credits. You're going to see the name of the news company that owns that and 10,000 other stations around the country. And then you'll watch Wheel of Fortune because that's probably what's on next.
Probably. We got a question here from Open Bayou.
Yeah.
At Nashcom, you guys aren't worried about having Scam School and Modern Rogue being labeled as not advertising friendly? While Scam School and Modern Rogue aren't extremist videos, you do gray area legal content.
We've actually had little dust ups is not the right word. We've had little moments surrounding those sorts of things.
Sure, yeah.
We've had episodes where the advertisers have come back and said, "Oh, that's a weapon. You put an ad for us on a essentially making a weapon. Can we not? Can we do another day or something?" It's tough.
Yeah.
Because Scam School, for all the hullabaloo about Scam School is still very family friendly, and
it's
you're
magic
not
tricks.
You're not going to hurt yourself, right?
Bar tricks, yeah.
And
people get really upset when you do a riddle.
Jesus. But with Modern Rogue, a lot of it is, here's how to make a knife out of a spoon, or
right.
Actually dangerous things.
Mm-hmm.
And so there have been a couple of cases where advertisers have been a little
hesitant.
Yeah.
And we also had one episode that was not able to be monetized by YouTube, and that was the Russian push-up episode.
Right.
And we think that it was because of the way that we titled it. It automatically triggered a thing that said, "Oh, this is
controversial."
Yeah,
because it was originally the evil Russian program.
Yeah, evil Russian push-up routine or something like that.
Right.
And so we got in contact with somebody and got it switched over at some point. I think we got it before it launched, but
that's good.
That was a weird moment. I feel like we do a really good job of disclaiming a lot of stuff and kind of presenting stuff in a way that's not, hey, go do these evil crimes.
The spoon, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But on the other hand, having the disclaimer stuff, doesn't mean as much versus say on a television show where you just need standards and practices to believe your disclaimer, right? It's you have to appease a different body, right?
Yeah.
You have to convince an advertiser that even though you said don't do this,
right,
it's still not a dangerous thing because we're not dumb. We all know that if you're gonna do it, you're gonna be dumb enough to do it. But we have to at least say don't do it, idiots.
Right.
Am I
sure,
out of line?
Yeah.
Kids, we know what the deal is. I'm not breaking down any walls here.
Way to break kayfabe, Bryce.
I'm being given this view, like, shut up. The secret. We must keep the veil.
But no, like for sure. And sometimes I feel like we do a good job of like steering episodes in ways that are like our thermite episode.
Sure.
We could have just said, hey, here's how to make thermite that can melt through anything. And you could do some real dumb stuff with that. You could hurt somebody with that.
Right.
You could do any given number of things that are super illegal. But we went, hey, let's just cook a steak with this because that's a really dumb thing that I've never seen before. And so that's like using really dangerous stuff for a really dumb thing, but it's kind of like innocent in its own way. And not all of our episodes have like a fun, easy twist on it like that. But
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a direction that uses dangerous things that advertisers might not like in a way that's not
Pretty friendly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
True.
So to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know. It's an ongoing thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that we are aware of.
Yeah.
And we've also been doing less ad stuff lately on Modern Rogue.
Sure.
So it has popped up less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's definitely just a thing that we will get. We will either get sponsors that are brave enough, or like at least have a trust that we're not like actually cutting people up on these videos. You know.
Right.
I think that's a great pitch that you need to put out there. Hey, sponsor, are you brave enough? Well, you want to sponsor us? All those other sponsors, they suck.
Yeah. Do you have what
Yeah.
it takes?
Yeah. Are you
To
a bad
give us
enough
money?
guy to give us
Dear
money?
Winchester, you should sponsor us because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, Scam School's always been pretty safe. I don't think we've ever had any problems with that.
No.
So
I think more like the Scam School, the content is fine. It's often like making sure the ads are.
Wasn't
right.
there an old
Sure.
the short change episode? I remember that. Wasn't there some like legally questionable because it was like actually a trick about
That was so-
cheating someone? It was a long time ago.
yeah,
a
that
while
was a
ago.
pretty old one.
I remember that. Yeah.
Probably.
Maybe, but
Sketchy.
I know it was all framed in a way of like, hey, I'm going to teach you how this is done, so that
you
way
don't-
when you
don't
see
get
it out in the
screwed.
wild,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
way to-
I'm gonna bring this up because I know that the impediment on it is me.
Okay.
Brian.
yeah.
Brian very politely brought it up to me, and I immediately recognized. Oh right, I haven't been doing that. I'm going to get on it. Scam School Remix has got ads. Oh boy. Scam School Remix is doing some domain ads, and as a part of it, we're also like pimping our playlist of the ads that have been on Scam School, and it's just the ads, but they're all funny skits and stuff. And I have not uploaded a standalone ad
In about 2 years.
in like a year and a half. They're all backed up and stuff.
Sure.
We're both bad about our APM music, and the only reason that gets done is because every quarter, sometime they will remind us if we didn't do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go add all the ads, and it's fine. Yours are better than mine anyway, so it's like we're good. But so like, what was the thinking with making the ad playlist? And like, I know Brian, at least when he mentioned it to me, it sounded like he was really pushing for this. But like, can you talk a bit about having an ad that is sending people to ads
Sure.
on Scam School Remix?
Yeah, so we've done a few ads on Scam School Remix before, but it's been quite a while. That was pretty early in Scam School Remix's life. There was like some NHTSA ads, and
Yeah.
there were, I think that
That might be
it.
the only ones. Yeah, the don't drink and drive stuff.
Yeah, and I think they had a couple rounds of those campaigns. We might have done like one domain or something before on Remix, but it's not something that we do very often. And lately, I think they've been kind of I mean, I don't have any direct contact with anybody at Domain. I just kind of hear from our contact at Seeker or whatever. But the impression that I get is that they're kind of experimenting to see if Scam School Remix ads will perform as well or better or worse than Scam School ads.
Right.
So a lot of people have noticed, it's been a little spotty with ads on Scam School recently, and usually that's to be expected early in the year. But this is lingered on a little bit longer than it typically does.
Yeah. But in a lot of these weeks, they have been taking the remix instead of the Scam School.
Yeah.
proper.
So coming up, there's going to be a good handful of Scam School Remix ads, and part of the stipulation of that is, at first they said, oh yeah, so they love the stuff that you guys do on Scam School. Can you just do that for Scam School Remix as well? Awesome. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. And I went, oh no, hey,
I'm editing it.
yeah. Well, I think at first Brian was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. I'll just run this by Brandt and see what he has to say. And I went, no, that's not
possible at all.
I cannot do that. I cannot do another ad, a Modern Rogue, a Scam School, and a remix.
Because that's not an ad every other week. That's an ad every week.
Yeah.
In a perfect world.
And typically a Scam School ad takes as long to shoot and edit as a full episode does. And it takes a lot of work for a pretty quick little vignette.
And we've talked about it before. Like, it is creative open waters. There is no direction at all.
Yeah.
You are just kind of thrown to the sharks to find something to deliver.
Yeah, and so it's a tough thing to do sometimes, and it's the kind of thing where had they asked me that 3 years ago, I would have said absolutely, because this is an opportunity.
Right.
And looking at it now, I would go, that is not viable at all. Like, I understand what goes into this, and that just can't happen.
Yeah.
So I said, we can do ads on Remix because we have done them before. There is a space in the structure of the show for that. But they have to be pretty close to just copy.
Tradition, yeah, right. Like, think like the Film Riot, where they do it in the format of the show with, just some banter, but it's not a full creative
endeavor.
Yeah.
It has to be easy. It has to be quick. Not a ton involved into it. So we've only shot one so far, and it was the episode that went up today.
That's right.
And we were kind of, I think Brian came up with it as we were shooting, because we didn't really know what we wanted to do. But Brian was like, "Hey, why don't we toss to this ad playlist that we already have set up."
Right.
And people can just go watch more of those. And then I thought, we've already got a CTA where we link to things, so let's just wrap up the ad into the CTA, and then we can have one of those links be the playlist. So we did that, and it took a bit of working to figure out the kind of flow for this sort of thing. But a lot of that stuff is really fun to watch, and it's all the same messaging as we currently have now.
Yeah.
Except for the weird one-off, like 35% discounts. But yeah, it was a pretty easy solution, and I think it worked out pretty well. I remember after we shot this, Brian and I sat down for like an hour watching ads. I measured it out. We're I think 30 seconds short of 2 hours in that playlist.
Wow.
That's impressive.
When you add all mine, it'll be up to 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. It'll be neat to see where all of that stuff lands eventually, But we've had weeks where Scam School Remix does just as good or sometimes better than Scam School at different points in time, right?
Yeah, which is still baffling to me that anybody even watches Scam School Remix.
But it's short.
Yeah, it is short.
fun,
It's better than watching the original episode.
Yes.
So
Which were 20 plus minutes long.
yeah, there are definitely a lot of times where I go, a 15-minute episode? Yeah, I could cut that down to 3 minutes. Like, with all of the framing of Brian giving a CTA and explaining the trick afterwards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'll do it. This is not
Okay.
good because earlier in the episode, I just mentioned how I had fucking nothing going on this past
Right.
week.
Like, oh man, I just
Oh, geez, what am I supposed
Nothing
to do?
to
with my time? Speaking of doing well, the Nigerian scam episode is doing very good for Modern Rogue. It is almost
Yeah.
at 700,000 views,
yes,
which is
Nice.
one of the most successful videos on the Modern Rogue channel.
yeah,
I think
Oh.
it's not as good at
it's definitely not as big as Pruno,
right. It's not
but
as,
Pruno's also had a long tail on it.
right. And also the Gansfeld effect, which was on the Scam School channel.
Right, Gansfeld Effect did really well on Scam School, and it's done decent on Modern Rogue, but obviously not as big as the Scam School upload.
Right. And that one has gotten so big, if you search for it, YouTube might send you to that more popular one.
Right.
You know, it's like, it's a weird snake eating its own tail, you know? And that's a very informational, like, there's good info in that episode. There's a lot of good info, some of which I knew, some of which I had no idea about. Brian has the algorithm is smiling upon him because he did not expect that video to be popular.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think anybody expected that video to be popular.
Yeah.
It's weird because you can never tell. I thought the Thermite episode was going to be huge. I was like, this is so dumb and fun. Like, I love it so much. This is going to be huge. And then it did okay. But it definitely did not blow up. And the Gansfeld episode, I was like, man,
This is gonna be nothing.
I
Yeah.
love this episode. It's not going to perform well.
Especially because, like,
Most of it's watching two dudes lay on a table.
yeah. Well, and that factors into it, right? Because the people who are watching don't know what the episode is going to be until they've watched it. You know, until they've turned it on and gotten a feel for a minute or two and decide if they want to keep watching for whatever reason. You know, and between people who already like the show and will watch, you know, whatever goes up every week, or someone who is going in and found it from AV Club, or just a search for X, Y, or Z keyword, or YouTube has found organic ties and put it in people's recommended feeds. Like, a lot of it is decided outside of the content of the video, and it's I feel like this is a problem that people do have, but also it might be something that people have a better handle on, like larger channels might have a better handle on. If you know what I mean. Like, at one point we were talking about looking at some sort of YouTube data analytics tool. It would look at like what like currently underserved YouTube tags were, and
Oh, weird.
based on AdWords and YouTube's, I have no idea how it worked, but it would be like, hey, you know, tell me what this video is about a little bit. We'll give you good tags to help this thing get surfaced more. And that kind of blew my mind because, like, that makes a lot of sense, right? YouTube, I bet, on some level knows what is popular and what is kind of been out of date and what is maybe a little stale. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something that could at least get us a couple stones throws closer to understanding why something might be more popular at a certain time. You know? I mean, there are entire companies that are dedicated to doing all of this stuff.
Sure.
Multi-million-dollar companies and consulting stuff. Some YouTubers open source that probably a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. We don't even use... Yeah.
I was going to say, it just reminds me of the most popular video that we ever made on Rage Select that was this free-to-play Spartacus game. And as somebody who wants hits, I used to have hair, and I was just like, why? Why is this free-to-play Spartacus game the most popular thing on the entire channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe this thing is already popular at the time, right? And it's being swept up in a big sea of recommended things, or, you know, maybe someone tweeted about it, or like a lot of that stuff you'll never ever know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are just so many variables at play that it's really hard to nail anything down. I experienced this before I even got this job when I did photography, and just like
Randomly, one would
I felt like I was doing really good work, and then I put up some shitty Photoshop of a car, like a NASCAR wreck or something, and it ended up being like the number 3 search result on Yahoo for NASCAR wreck.
Oh my god!
And I was like, why? This isn't even good.
Wow.
And it's not even bad enough to be notable.
It's voodoo. It's all
Yeah.
voodoo.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley has decided.
It's weird. And that episode in particular, the Nigerian scam email episode, was super weird because it was like incredibly sloppy. Brian was sick during it,
Yeah.
and so there were a lot of references to Krav Maga and.
Right, because they were talking about it before the taping,
Yeah.
and Brian was fucking looped out on cold medicine.
Yeah, and
because that was the day we were gonna do surveillance originally, and we ended up doing like an hour of drone stuff, and then Brian crashed for 4 days.
Yeah.
Ah man,
Yeah, and so like piecing that episode together was weird, and I was like, I don't know about this, and it took a long time to figure out kind of the structure of the episode, and then Brian kept giving out like false information. So like the power book scam, he got totally wrong, and so I had to go look up the right information and then provide that as overlay stuff, and then he got the Penn Jillette story half right, but there was a lot of nuance that was left out, and so I had to go read that in his book and then go like
fun business expense.
yeah. Well, luckily, that exact chapter was available for free on Google Preview thing, so I was like, oh man. Great, because I just searched for Penn Jillette
Scam.
blackmail photos or something, and it came
right.
up. So, but yeah, it was so weird because I was there's no way to know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know. You go, okay, yeah, we've done episodes like this before where the guys just sit here and talk,
talking, yeah.
and so many people go, you should do explosions and stuff, and I'm like, well, that's certainly not this episode. And it's like, it's so weird. I don't understand this job.
No, but I think we're understanding it as best we can.
Yeah, about as good as anybody else does.
Right. I do have one little bit of housekeeping. If you are incredibly detail-oriented for some reason and also are checking the Patreons, I rewrote a lot of our Patreon pages for the podcasts.
Nice.
Because a lot of them are written in a certain tense that is like pre-launch of the shows. So it's like, you've been watching us on frame rate for a long time now. We're ready to launch a brand new show called Cord Killers.
Right.
And it's like, you've been doing it for 3 years. So I went in and like cleaned up a lot of those things. And some point in the next week or so, I would like to talk to the guys a bit about readjusting those goals. And maybe even some of the pledge levels, because just a lot of that stuff either hasn't either happened, or at one point not long after Patreon, Patreon readjusted how it shows numbers and stuff. So everything went down because it was more accurately representing what we were getting versus what people were saying they were going to give.
Right.
And those numbers never changed to reflect it. And so like. You will probably see some of that stuff change a little bit, and if you're in Patreon, you might get an email about, this reward change or something, and like with weird things, right? Like there's a Patreon pledge level where they will do a Google Hangout once a month, and like.
How's that going?
We had never hit that level. We barely.
Okay.
Weird Things still have not hit the level to where they would hire me. They hire a producer level of Patreon. We're just shy of it.
I feel like everybody I've ever known who's had a Patreon where one of the stretch goals is Google Hangouts, they do one.
Right.
and then they
Yeah.
never do it again.
And so like Tom does it, we have concerns do it, but those are like all of those guys is like big thing. That's the one Patreon that they sort of do. Whereas between the 5 of the hosts for
Brian
these
has,
different
like, 8
shows,
Patreons.
yeah. Every time I say the word hangout to Brian, it's always like, well, let's like I want to let's find ways that are not us. Brian has a very large fascination with Rich Dad Poor Dad and trading time for money, investments, good use of time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Which is why he plays Hearthstone a lot.
Yes.
well, but he doesn't waste his time because he doesn't bother closing Hearthstone or turning the computers off.
Oh.
That's just time
Oh,
save.
of
course,
yeah.
that's life hack.
Save. Life hack.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I think for most of the guys, these things wouldn't be an impediment occasionally or once a month, right? But we just need to kind of suss that out. And, like, I would rather take something away from that copy text than have it be a thing that probably isn't going to happen, right?
Right.
Like if you look at the Night Attack one, there are like 2 or 3 pledge levels that are under $1, which Patreon no longer supports. So if you want to get in the $50 range, you can't. You're just not gonna. And so, but there are people who are pledged at that level, and we want to make sure that their feeds still work. So we're not gonna like in those cases we won't get rid of a pledge level, but we need to figure out what voting shares means anymore in a world where they haven't touched their new album in 6 months. They have an album that is basically ready to be produced, and they haven't listened to whatever that latest cut is that an entire team just said that they would do for them.
Sounds like a Night Attack
Sounds
album.
like a nice thing. But if we can codify that stuff a little more accurately, we can get a sense of what should and shouldn't happen. So, at some point there was talk of like, hey, we'll do an in-studio thing once every month, right? I think they've fought like it has happened in the past few months out of happenstance between the VR stuff and South by Southwest. But like actually saying we're gonna do it, let's just try to figure out any sort of system for these things is doing the best service we can to the people on Patreon. Like it just shouldn't be at this point. It's just wrong and outdated.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of like a month or 2 months ago when I was really pushing for that Modern Rogue shirt page to be updated, where I was like, how are we still selling shirts when we're saying, hey, we're taking pre-orders now, vote on which one you want to actually go into production? And it's like, no, this is like 6 months out of date. What are we doing?
Well, and part of that is like none of us really go look at those pages except when we need a shirt, and then we don't have those images, and it's
like
not,
here are like previs images that somebody used on some stock website or something.
Yeah. So, I want that stuff to get it better, because like on my own Patreon, right? I went in at some point last year and was like, okay, I know I said I would do like a lot of request based stuff, but like I'm not doing it, and it's just like I'm lucky if I get in new songs.
Right.
So it wasn't used very much, so I'm just gonna hack and slash, and if there are any problems, sorry about it. Because at the end of the day, it's like if you overpromise and it's not gonna happen, you wanting it more won't make it happen.
Right.
Unfortunately. So just keep but sneak preview. One thing that was brought to my attention a few weeks ago is that Patreon has integration with Discord, which we are pushing a lot.
Nice.
Just in terms of an extra place to chat outside of the shows. And so the Night Attack Patreon at bit.ly/NA Discord, all lowercase, has actually got people using it. And I would love for that to be a flourishing new avenue, just like the Modern Rogue Reddit or even the Diamond Club Reddit, just to like be a more active place for the community, right? And so, Patreon and Discord have some sort of integration thing, and I have to look into how all that works necessarily between multiple Patreons and giving people specific roles, and then what do we just make a patrons clubhouse room? Do we make a hosts thing? We just need to sit down and see what people can do, because I mean, if Brian doesn't want to do a hangout once a month, I don't know how often he's going to go into a Discord and talk about Justified.
I think I've seen Brian on Discord one time.
Yeah.
Ever. I was surprised to see that.
Yeah. That might have been that night when we were all on Discord talking to the chat room after, this was right as the Twitch stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And we were all like, he and I were in this room on the voice channel trying. He had to walk away because we were getting echoes on each other's phones. But, that is something tangible, and just trying to find that stuff out.
Yeah.
Like the Weird Things Patreon has like 10 goals that are actually nothing, right? Like there's a $10 and a $25 and a $50 or something, and they're all just like a gag.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, right.
Houdini says thank you. Ugh.
That's a hit.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. Open Buyer says Justin is on occasionally. He is, and I would love for everybody to use it more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see Curly and his crew use it, and I'm in their server all the time too. And it's like, we can do that too.
I've got a good handful of Discord servers that I frequent. So
I've only got 3. We were gonna make one for the movie draft, just for the contestants. Didn't really pan out. They didn't really get into it. But thankfully, we set a lot of that stuff up early, so we didn't need to worry about that happening.
nice. So I've got the Diamond Club server. I have the here we go. I got the full list.
There we go.
Diamond Club.
Okay.
I've got Drunk Kids Gaming.
DKG.
Yep. I have Chad.
Oh, right. OMG Chad.
He's got his own thing. I've got Giant Bomb.
Giant Bomb. Oh, Giant Bomb has one? Is it like a fan run?
Sure. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I have Waypoint.
Oh, sure.
I have
The horniest Discord on the internet.
yeah. I have Low5, who he streams Rocket League stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
I have Team Rocket, who is a group of
Rocket League players.
Rocket League players.
Not Pokemon thieves.
Excellent.
I have a group that has all my friends from high school.
Sure.
And I never go there because they do nothing but shitpost.
Everyone's got those.
But you can't leave because you're...
Because I have to have some root there in case I need to like contact them in an emergency.
Sure.
I need to join their Discord. I have.
Are you in the No Clip?
I have No Clip. That's the one I'm probably the most active in, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's just quiet enough that I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the ones like Giant Bomb or Waypoint or something, those are really active, and I feel overwhelmed with that kind of stuff.
Are you in Cloth Map? Do they have
Not
that set up yet?
Not yet. Well, I'm not in it yet. They might have it set up. I know they've got one. And then number 10 is
Number 10.
Number 10 is Ahoy, who he does videos kind of similar to No Clip. He does sometimes he does retrospectives on games. They're documentaries about video games on YouTube.
Cool.
Sometimes he'll do I want to say a couple months ago, he did a bow and arrow video, and it was basically let's talk about bow and arrows as a cultural thing and how they've impacted video games throughout the entirety of video games. And so
cool.
a big massive project.
Yeah.
I think just recently there was one about bazookas, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of, and some of his best stuff I think is Retro Ahoy, which is the older game stuff. So there's a really great one on Quake and stuff like that. It's really good stuff.
That's awesome.
As someone who is in kind of a good number of Discords, right? How tuned in do you feel by being say a member of the No Clip Discord, which ostensibly was almost a Patreon perk, probably, right?
I feel like at first it was kind of positioned as a Patreon thing, but I don't know. I think there's like maybe
It might just be like you get a special role.
Yeah.
At this point.
yeah.
But in any case,
if I definitely feel like a connection with the community there. Like there's definitely like they have a video production channel in there, and I like to give my advice in that channel and talk to people in that channel.
Yeah.
And there's a place for people to post creative things that they post, and there's a general chat, and there's a lot of the stuff that you'd expect to see. And so there are definitely people there who I see and recognize, and I see their name and I go, yes, like I know you.
Yeah.
And it's a fun way to kind of build up that community stuff. And yeah, it is tough for some of those bigger channels. Something like Low 5, I felt kind of a little bit overwhelmed with, and then I ended up just muting. And I kind of got in there because there was an integration with Twitch, and so if you subscribe to the person, you get a certain thing in Discord or whatever.
See.
So that's why I joined that, but I kind of just quietly stepped back. Even though I like the video stuff that he does, it's just like I don't feel necessarily a part of that community because I just haven't put the time into it really. But something like NoClip, yeah, like once you decide to invest in it, it's a pretty good tool for that kind of thing.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I would love it. I would love our Discord to like flourish in similar ways. But it's.
I feel like it's still trying to find its voice.
Yeah. Well, and it also doesn't really get, say, any promotion. Like Night Attack, I recently made a rotating bug for all of the many links, and the Discord is one of them.
Yeah.
But that is one link of like literally 12 different ways that you can connect, and it's gotten basically no airtime as a thing to be promoted. So
right.
As we are like figuring out, what channels people want and how people use it, I think it could also grow into an extra avenue,
Yeah. I assume you guys have a Twitch bot that kind of once every now and then goes, hey, we got a thing.
We have Nightbot on the Twitch channel. I ended up disabling most of the timers, the regular posts, because they were only for when it was just Night Attack on that on the channel.
Oh,
but
okay.
I need to go in and add more generic ones. Check out the Patreons or check out the Discord and cross channel stuff. But because a lot of that stuff now is manual commands that the mods will put in. So Cord Killers Patreon or whatever. But yeah, no, that's a really good idea. GG. So we're kind of running a little long, but I do want to get. I just have a little potpourri segment here. How's everybody doing? We're doing good the last month. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Good.
How's the new backpack? I saw you brought it with you.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I have a Peak Design backpack.
Very fancy.
Excellent.
It looks
Pretty
like
cool.
like some sort of fucking Halo backpack.
Yo, check this out.
Okay, so he's undoing a latch. Oh, so it's like it's not Velcro or anything. It's a hook. It's a hook and latch system.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. And then so you can open it through the top there. You can open it through either side.
Ooh.
Oh wow! So you can use it as an equipment bag.
Right.
Yeah, and so
And it has a lot of pockets.
Awesome.
there
Or
are
a lot of dividers.
a lot of dividers, pockets, stuff like that. So I upgraded from a Swiss Gear backpack, which I've been using for about 10 years, ever since high school. My Swiss Gear backpack is still holding up pretty well. It's starting to get a little worn out on the seams and stuff. So I felt like I needed to start thinking about a backpack. But the thing that really pushed me over into getting this Peak Design was the fact that I'm carrying my camera around a lot more than I used to.
Yeah.
And the Swiss Gear has like a lot of deep, big open pockets and stuff.
But
so
nothing
like
specific.
a main
around,
compartment.
right? Yeah.
And so you can't really like put a camera in there and other stuff because then it's just like dangling around in the bottom of the bag.
Yeah.
And it's a real mess. So I went with this. It's a bit of an adjustment. I feel like there's less space, but I do like the structure of compartmentalizing stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cool, nifty little neat features in there. I also like that there are like a lot of straps and stuff that you can use, but also they tuck away and hide in like hidden compartments and stuff, so that way you don't have a lot of dangling stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Which is nice. Cool. Yeah.
And do you feel like it is adequate for carrying equipment around?
Yeah. The only downside I have right now is I feel like the arm straps could be a little bit more comfortable, but they're not bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I asked because like we go and do like we've done the live night attacks and stuff before, and a lot of that stuff, we don't want to put cameras in in check bags, right? Because they'll just get knocked around and could break.
Yeah.
And so I like putting all that stuff in my like bicycle bag, that large yellow bag that I use, which is fine, or the other normal backpack that I've got right now. But it's the same thing with your Swiss one, where it's just an open compartment and it has to settle at the bottom. And then, do you think, and in any case, it'd be nice to have an equipment.
Yeah, it's much better suited for stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not like, you're not going to expect the kind of protection that you get from something like a Pelican case or something.
Yeah.
Something that's dedicated to be like a really rugged
bomb-proof
thing. Yeah, that you could just stow away a lot of equipment in.
That's too professional for us.
Absolutely. It would have to be like blue, where Brian would drive over it with his truck before he could use it. So yeah, it's great. It's nice and compact. There are two sizes. I got a smaller size, just because I don't know. I feel like the only difference is height. Like
it's taller.
Like I think the larger size like adds an extra like set of dividers. Above it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so I was like, I don't know that I need that necessarily. So I have had to like kind of slim down what I carry just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
you normally carry your bag is usually pretty full.
Yeah.
At like scam school shoots.
Yeah. I kind of pack away a lot of stuff. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm still getting used to it. I got it just like 2 or 3 days ago. So I don't have all of the in and outs quite yet.
Sure. First impression.
Yeah, but it's really nice. I'm enjoying it. I think it looks really cool.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
We'll check in
Bag,
next
yeah.
month and see
Yeah.
Backpack Watch. Yeah. I have been trapped in 2 holes named Yakuza 0 and Breath of the Wild.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, as far as holes go, 2
Very-
good ones to be trapped in.
Indeed. I got a chicken friend in Yakuza.
Okay, I was about to say,
Nice.
I'm not sure which game you're talking about quite yet.
No, I got it. Well, he's not really a friend. He's more like a worker. He's the manager of my real estate properties. So
Of course.
he makes a tidy sum. It's 300,000 yen for his consulting fees. They're both really cool in different ways. I think they both have shortcomings in being an open world sort of game, but it's interesting that they handle an open world game completely differently.
Right.
Because Breath of the Wild is this gigantic journey,
This kind of
expedition.
exploratory.
Yeah. You are constantly trying to find needles in a haystack, where Yakuza 0 has these 2 smaller but very meticulous worlds. And it's a very kind of orchestrated thing, right? Like stuff appears once other stuff leaves, and you are finding things after. You are running around these cities constantly and keep finding new stuff because it's pulling the strings.
Yeah. All those Mr. Shakedowns.
That's right. You can avoid Mr. Shakedown pretty. The problem with Mr. Shakedown, this is a character who is like 7 feet tall, and it will destroy you very easily
And take all your money.
and take all your money.
Oh.
The problem with Mr. Shakedown is you don't really get as much money as it is worth to fight him, especially later on in the game where you're earning literally hundreds of millions of yen, like
Right.
in minutes. So that's a very specific weird thing, but he's also very easy to avoid.
Sure. But yeah, there's a lot of like side quests, and just like it's populated with a bunch of people who have weird, interesting little side stories.
That's great.
It's like those are weird scenarios, but what you're getting at the end of it is a fight because it is a fighting game, and the stories are kind of similar in terms of tone and in terms of how valuable they are. They're fun, but you can just skip them and just get to the end of the thing.
Right.
Whereas Breath of the Wild, it's very much just like, hey, I said a thing and this word's in red, so have fun. And so it uses a lot more lateral thinking in that sense. But I don't feel like I've got the best grasp on what is a good part of Breath of the Wild. You know, parts of me would love to have a car in Breath of the Wild. But then other parts of me think that like walking around and exploring every blade of grass is interesting. They're both different. They're both weird things. So
You should get one of the. What if Link had one of those like plane things, but with the pedals,
Oh,
and so you pedal the plane around
man,
around
that'd be
Hyrule.
awesome. Like
a pedal plane?
Yeah, you
like one of those
Yeah.
helicopter things.
you
or
know,
like,
Jeff knows.
What?
Yeah, like a
Like an
a
aerial
bicycle
screw?
with wings
What?
on it or whatever.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a bike with a hang glider on top of it.
They're really cool.
What? What is this?
Helicopter
But
bike.
I was about to say, but I mean, you've kind of got that between the paraglider
glider.
and teleportation.
Oh,
like you
yeah.
can almost do that.
Sure, sure.
Right.
Yeah, I feel
But I
like
found. Oh, I'm sorry.
Aerial screw that you've described, though. I literally don't know what it's supposed to be. Okay, sorry. Continue.
I feel like Breath of the Wild is the first time I've ever really sat down and thought about like,
A video game.
like Nintendo, huh?
Yeah.
Nintendo.
But here's the thing, my hot take, because I don't normally like Zelda games,
All right.
but I don't think it plays like a Zelda game very much.
Really?
Great.
Yes.
I think it plays like an old Zelda game. That's
Yeah.
the thing that I've noticed is that it's very much like the old NES. Like, here's a sword, go do whatever. We don't care. Figure it out. Whereas the later Zelda games started to get more and more trapped inside of like, oh, there's a prophecy where you have to go to these temples in this order and connect to these 12 things. So this person will talk to you. Whereas Breath of the Wild could really care less because the beginning of that game, Zelda's like, Link, help me, please. I'm dying. I have minutes left to live. And you're like, hold on. I've got 40 hours worth of hitting chickens and like getting stuff for the giant fairies to take care of first. So
Yeah.
the stakes on that game are another weird thing of just spending actual months of in-game time just farting around.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's your video game update hot minute scoop.
Yeah.
Good.
Corner hour.
Real quick, appendage to video game update hot minute scoop corner hour.
Yes, it's an hour of it.
Wonderful.
I've been getting more into Rocket League.
That's right.
I kind of took some
Excellent.
time off. I took a couple months off, and then I'm kind of back in the mix now. And it's a lot of fun. It's a good video game.
Yeah, I've been seeing you post some of your
Oh, yeah.
hot moves in Rocket League, getting some sick stunt
awesome.
scores.
Yeah, against
Very
the dude
nice.
who named himself after Kronovi. And at first I went, is that the real Kronovi? And then I went, no, it is not. Because I beat him and also because of other reasons. But
Ooh. Got caught out, Phonovi.
yeah. I mean, he's named after Kronovi's old sponsorship. There's no reason why Kronovi would change his name back to an old sponsorship.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
dumb.
Duh.
That's dumb. That's
Duh.
But I've been watching more Rocket League and playing a little bit more in my spare time, and it's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Controller,
And-
keyboard, or mouse. I'm struggling with both actually because I've been getting back into Rocket League also.
Yeah.
And it's
Nice.
like and I can't decide. Like I got it on the
Well,
PC-ish,
there's only one answer, and that's controller.
good. It's
Really? No,
Yeah.
you know what? Yes, because it's a driving game. You need the analog.
Yeah.
it's so much
steering.
easier to do like the aerials when you got the mouse. I always get lost and it's like, oh, this guy.
There's like one professional who uses controller. or
keyboard
uses
mouse.
keyboard
Okay,
mouse.
right.
Everybody uses controller. Controller's clutch. You need controller.
Yeah. Conformists.
I mean, it's the way to go.
I know I just agreed with you, but it's conforming. I'm
Yeah.
conforming. All right.
Can I just briefly rep
Absolutely.
for one other
Please,
franchise?
please do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Last Dark Souls 3 DLC comes out in 4 hours and 30 minutes, and I cannot wait. I'm hoping this is the one that fixes it. Please fix it.
I swore off that game. Lost too many hours of my life to that. Just death after death after. It's like, no, I can't. Just no.
Yep.
No, I'm done.
Wow.
Good on you.
Is this the third big DLC for Dark Souls 3?
Second. There were
Second.
2 total. But yeah, traditionally all the Dark Souls games DLCs have like added to the game in a really, really substantive way. And the first one was kind of bullshit that you could beat in 90 minutes. So everybody's got their fingers crossed. I think it's going to be a big disappointment, but it's Dark Souls. I'm going to play it. I don't care. I'm already in this
Sure.
far.
Yeah. I followed the Let It Die account on Twitter
Oh,
because it's a
yeah.
Dark Souls-like game, a free-to-play game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see them posting fun, like, oh, this is our event for the week or whatever. And I really haven't touched in a really long time.
It's kind of fun.
It's a good. I mean, I think it's a Dark Soulsy sort of game in terms of being sort of semi-permadeath and very difficult. I don't know, but it's also got a lot of roguelike elements. Anyway,
Yeah.
Senpai.
One last thing, Rocket League. New drop shot patch out.
Oh, right,
this past
Oh,
week.
really?
This is
Okay.
the game mode where there are goals in the ground.
So yeah, there are
Right.
tiles on the ground. You hit the ball every time you hit the ball. You basically tag it with your team's color.
Yeah.
And then if the ball is tagged with the opposite team's color that it lands on, then it damages the tiles. You damage the tiles enough, and the tiles break away. And then
Oh.
anytime the ball falls through the tiles, you score a goal.
Wow. Oh, okay.
And it's really interesting because, you know, all of Rocket League, you're trying to kind of keep it up in the air and kind of push it forward and advance it. But
Yeah.
with this, you really have to flip your thinking, and it's a lot of spiking the ball into the ground and like strategically placing yourself in such a way that you know that they're going to hit it and tag the ball. So you have to be there to, you know, tag it in your color and move it away from them and also hit their ground. And
Huh.
That's awesome.
it's a cool, interesting thing.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, let's get into plugs. Let's start in reverse order. Jeff, is there
Yo.
anything that you would like to plug here at the end of the show? Twitter
I'm not familiar with this. What are you talking about?
I mean, like, do you want to tell people about?
I really like Arby's and Taco Bell. Is that what we're talking? We're just
Yeah.
Okay.
Finally,
All right.
somebody who knows how to do plugs. But yeah, just anywhere you want people to follow you.
Twitter or
oh
the
sure,
YouTube
Things
stuff?
you're
yeah.
working on.
At Rage Select, you just type those 2 words in anywhere, and you'll find a large variety of different things. Except for, is it Tumblr? There's one poor bastard out there that has one social media account that that's with the same name. But yeah, Rage Select on Twitter is fine. We post up most of our stuff. We do a video every day, and we do some like streaming on Sunday and things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Max.
Nice. DJ Old Fashion over on Twitter. My pursuit of weird doing things and complaining about getting up early in the morning when I have guests. So, yeah, not really anything. Just kind of, updates to the Scam Stuff tour. Should be fun. I'm trying to like post more bloggy-ish things. So I guess.
Yeah, I heard about your coffee incident.
Oh yeah, that was spectacular.
There's a
used-
coffee incident.
There
You used
was.
chili
Oh,
powder
yeah, I
instead
did
of
see that.
Yeah,
cinnamon.
like usually like a little bit of cinnamon in the top of the coffee
Sure.
grounds, but I was like really sleepy, so I put chili powder. I was like, ooh, this is nice.
Accidentally?
Yeah, well, there's the same spice rack. They look the same when I'm hungover, so
Okay. No,
it was like, ooh, so
yeah.
I would recommend if you're into the spicy beverage.
Interesting.
Yes, but
Brandt, what's going on?
Okay. You can find me on Twitter at Gadowag, GATOWAG. You can find me on Twitch at Gadowag. You can find me on YouTube at Gadowag. You can find me on
Insta? What do you on Insta?
Instagram at Gadowag. I've been trying to take more photos the past couple months. You can find me on just about anywhere. Just look up that username. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good branding.
Follow me on Twitter and Twitch at BRYCS. I'm streaming more on the Night Attack channel.
Oh yeah.
Twitch
Yeah.
channel.
Good.
This past weekend, I was toying around with Face Rig and that game that was in the Humble Bundle, Choice Chamber. And so it's kind of like a room-based dungeon crawler, but the people in the chat decide like what your upgrades are, or
Oh, that's cool.
they vote on what you buy at the shop, or
Oh, weird.
they give you double jump, or they make you invisible and then you die. You know.
Choice Chamber is a really good
Samus.
alternate name for Zero Time Dilemma.
Y'all, okay, y'all,
I
I'm
can
giving up
see that.
precious plug time to Zero Time Dilemma and Zero Escape. The first two games are now out on Steam. The Noner games. Jeff, you did a video on it, right?
Yeah, probably the last visual novel that we're ever going to play. Our audience was just complaining the entire time, and that game is overwritten. Like, I'm sure it's a fine
No,
game, but
it's-
for a stream.
Okay, yes. It's fantastic. Look it up. The Noner Game Collection is the first two games. Zero Time Dilemma is the third one. It is hands down my favorite sci-fi anything ever. And they actually finished it. Y'all, you don't understand. There was a chance they weren't going to finish it. And they finished it.
It's good.
Fucking Carlos.
Yeah.
All right. You can find this show. All of this show is available on bizarrebriefing.com and on youtube.com/scamstuff. You can find all of our old episodes, find our Twitters and our links and time codes to old episodes, this, that, and the other thing. And, we are here on the internet. Right now we're on diamondclub.tv at the end of the month. We did it on Monday this week. I know last week we had a whole thing. We had a whole thing of like, okay, we have to move to Tuesdays because
Tuesdays only.
Tuesdays only. And then Brian went off to Hollywood and is in a movie. And so tomorrow they're doing weird things in the afternoon. So we have to do this early because I'm here. And God damn it, I'm not going to travel down here 3 days a week. That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, we will see you next month for the next Bizarre Briefing. Bye.
Maybe on
Something like that,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Maybe on the Tuesday.
Probably.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.